Go.
You really have to focus when you're two guys in the outdoors and you got to run a mouth call. So anyway, let's talk about mouth calls. The mouth call is the most difficult call to master. As far as they're probably the most popular nowadays, but they are the hardest to master, unlike some of the other calls that we've talked about.
Yeah, just ask me. Mine still sound like a kazoo.
So a mouth call. So let's basically look at a mouth call. A mouth call has an aluminum frame, and it has tape. It's just a form of tape because I've got a jig where I can make my own mouth calls. But it's got tape on it, and then you've got a variety of different reeds. So you see this black latex here on top. Then we have a yellow middle latex here, and then we've got a clear latex here on the bottom, kind of hard to see in the video, with a V cut in there. And those are called reeds. So this would be a 3-reed call because it has 3 different layers of latex, okay? If we look at this call here, one of my favorite calls, one of my favorite mouth calls are Woodhaven calls. And this is a 2-reed. If you notice, it's got a red V-cut or a V-cut on the top, and then it has a clear reed on the bottom. So this would be what's called a double reed. All right. And then you can have calls, mouth calls that will have 3, 4, 5 different layers of latex in them. I'm going to give you a tip. If you're buying mouth calls, you want to buy a double reed call, especially if you're a beginner, because a double reed call like this one, meaning it's got 2 different layers, is going to be much easier to blow and create turkey sounds than a call that has 3 layers like this particular call here. All right. Now, to make these calls, how to make sounds on these calls. So if you notice, you see that there's a bump on this. This is where that aluminum frame has a tab, and they bend it over onto that frame to keep it from opening up. All right. That is the bottom of the call. So that part is what goes against your tongue. If you look at this call, it has that bump. Again, it's where the aluminum frame is folded over. That goes against your tongue. All of these calls, there's the bump. You can feel it probably better than you can see it. Again, that goes against your tongue. Okay, again, the bump goes against your tongue. So let's move the camera up here. And so this tape seals to the roof of your mouth. The bump is the bottom part, so it goes against your tongue. And so what you're doing is you're blowing air between your tongue and the diaphragm, the reed. All right. So when I stick this in my mouth, take my tongue, I push it to the roof of my mouth, and I want to just make sounds. So I'm just blowing air between my tongue and that reed. So when you start to learn to use a mouth call, just make sounds. And then you're going to start to try to make turkey sounds. So I want to create a yelp first. So I'm going to apply pressure to the reed with my tongue, and then I'm going to I'm going to release that pressure, and I'm going to create that yelp cadence. So I got the high-pitched part of the yelp, the low part when I drop my tongue off of it. So now let's speed it up. So now I sped that action up. So now what I'm doing is pressure, no pressure, pressure, no pressure, pressure, no pressure. All right, so that's a yelp. So just that pressure creating, make a sound, and then you start working on that cadence, all right? So again, that's the yelp. Remember, just like all the other calls, hey, over here I am. So let's do the cut. So the cut is just like making a cut on a friction call. It's going to take more pressure. So I'm going to take more pressure with my tongue. And I'm also taking my lips, and I'm not letting that sound out. I'm kind of putting or popping my tongue, blowing that air through there. So again, that's that cut. Break into a yelp. I want to tell that story. All right. And then the purr. One of the problems with a mouth call is you can get loud, but it's hard to get soft. And that's where friction calls come in handy, because you can really get soft with a friction call. But a purr. So less pressure, and you can see it's a lot more difficult to get soft on a mouth call, and it takes a lot of practice. So just those basic sounds, and then just like when you're in turkey woods hunting, put those sounds together. So there I ran those yelps, purrs, cuts all together to sound like a turkey out there saying, hey, over here I am, and I'm excited, and I'm also content and happy over here. So, mouth call.
So I have a question about the mouth call.
Yep.
So if you look in, all the stores, and there's all different kinds, right? And there's a lot of different cuts, V cuts, and stuff like that. The bat cut. And
yep.
Is there a difference between them? Does it make a difference, or is that a lot of hype for sales?
No, it is. It does. Let me show you. I'm try to show you on this red call here, and we'll stick it behind a dark surface. Hopefully you can see that there it's a V cut, and that's a double reed. That's going to be a very raspy and an easy call to cut on, and it's going to have a raspy yelp to it. The call that I was just using, it's kind of hard to see, but it's got a snake tongue and a half moon cut out over here on this side. It's still a double reed. Now this call gives you a really aggressive cut, a raspy yelp, and you can also do some whines and different calls on it that I did not demonstrate. And this is what they call a bat wing, I believe, if I'm correct, but it's kind of hard to see because both of the latexes on here are kind of white in color.
Together.
Yeah, they're stuck together, but they're all the same color, so it's kind of hard to see. So those different cuts allow you to make different sounds. And some calls, you know, you get it's an easier yelp or a raspy yelp, some that you can cut on easier. So yeah, the cuts do make a difference. But again, start out with a double reed call because they're easier to blow, easier to make turkey sounds on. And then you just have to kind of figure out what cuts work best for you, and you'll be good to go from there. Good question.
So now I made the mistake on the very first call I had before I talked to you, and I cut that material in the outside because I didn't think it was fitting my mouth, and I was having a gag reflex.
You got to break them in. If you notice this call, which is the one I've been using, it's looks much different than this new call right here. This green call, you can see that latex is still rigid, or not the latex, but the tape, the green part is still rigid and it's not molded and it hasn't taken shape to my mouth. You can see here that this is more flat and this white one has an arch where it's fitting my mouth. So it's just like a brand new shoe versus a shoe that you've got broke into your foot. You've a brand new call right out of the pack is not going to sound very good at first. You've got to get it to fit the palate, the roof of your mouth. And once you do that, you're going to be able to make those turkey calls a whole lot easier. Okay. So let's talk about some maintenance real quick. These are the least expensive calls compared to friction calls. But these calls, if you don't take care of them, they will wear out, and they will eventually wear out anyway. So you're not going to be able to keep this call forever. This call you can keep forever. So, but to make a diaphragm call last as long as it possibly can, what I do is when I'm not using that call in the off season, I'll put it in a mixture of mouthwash, 50-50 mouthwash and distilled water. Stick that diaphragm call down in that solution and keep it in my refrigerator. That will help keep the reeds. Number one, it makes that call sanitary. And two, it will keep those latex reeds from sticking together. And you'll be able to pull that call out of there, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 4 months from now, and be able to make those turkey sounds. And like always, keep it simple and get out in the outdoors and go hunting.
Get out and have some fun.